So I've had a number of firm owners reach out, let's say over the last several weeks. And it seems like when COVID first hit, there was a bit of momentum. Very early on, there were people that were kind of stepping outside of their comfort zones. They were launching podcasts. They were doing webinars. They were putting out, e-newsletters. They were calling clients, all these different things. And that seems to have died off a little bit. So it's fascinating to me because there's the saying that you don't become successful by what you do sometimes. You become successful by what you do consistently. So, when someone reaches out and says, hey, I've launched a blog, I posted a couple times on it, but it hasn't really picked up traction. Or I launched a podcast, but, we've done about 3 or 4 episodes, no one's really listening yet. And I want to say, look, well, that's it, or I've started running ads on social media. I don't think it's working. We haven't gotten any phone calls yet. Well, I think with anything like that, you always have to be mindful of like the ramp time that it requires and the consistency it requires to really do anything well. So if you've read the Malcolm Gladwell book Outliers, and it talks about the 10,000 hour rule, but even outside of that, I think that when we talk about staying consistent, now it's very important to stay visible. But if you did something for a little while, a few weeks or a month, and then you dropped off, then you're now invisible. And you can talk about consistency in a number of ways too. So many of us, when we first went remote, when our teams went remote, very early on, there was that call to greatness. We're hitting this apocalyptic scenario. Everyone's got to step up and rally. But then a month goes by and people start getting used to the quarantine and that intensity that we once had, and you see a lot of businesses once had, it kind of lacks up on that. And you kind of step back and say, okay, well, now we've gotten used to this. Maybe we don't need to operate at that same level of consistency, that same level of intensity. And I think that's where things really start to taper off. So just know that your brand is, it's created by either default or by design. And the way in which you are remaining consistent or not remaining consistent, if you're staying visible, if you're not visible, that will define your brand. And I'll tell you, look, it's not easy. I'll be transparent. This video that you are watching, we are doing these. We're putting out over 20 pieces of content every single day. When they say, hey, Mike, we're going to put a camera at you, go talk about something, we're going to create quotes off it and all these things. That is, when you do that every single day, that's not easy to do. Oftentimes I get on these things, I don't know exactly what I'm going to talk about. I hope that there's value here. Maybe there was, is there as much value as the last one or the next one and anything like that? And I'll tell you, look, at the end of the day, the most important thing is consistency. You don't get good at anything that you're not consistently practicing, that you're not consistently improving on. If you were calling your clients previously, there's no reason to stop calling your clients. If you were doing consistent meeting rhythms within your organization, morning huddles, check-ins throughout the day, maybe an end of day, and then you stop doing those because, hey, they worked really well, and then we don't know why we stopped them. Well, it's that challenging to remain consistent. But if you want to be the best, it's very important that you are, like, your habits, you're basically going to be defined by your habits and what you do consistently or what you don't do consistently. But I'll tell you, if you want to push from a marketing and brand standpoint, if you want to get anywhere, if you want to build a brand, if you want to really grow your practice for the long term, if you want to bring in the best clients and the best cases, I know a few ways to do it outside of being consistent in terms of your messaging, in terms of your content, in terms of being visible and all those different things. And if you fail to do those things and you expect consistent results with inconsistent efforts, well, then you're going to be in for a surprise. So I will leave you with this as a reminder. You don't become successful by what you do sometimes. You become successful by what you do consistently. On days you want to do it, days you don't want to do it, motivated, not motivated, feeling up to it, not feeling up to it. You feel like you don't have something to talk about, other days you do have something to talk about. You're either consistent or you're not.